People talk about protecting their peace because it's on trend. But protecting your peace isn't just some fluffy thing or some aesthetic moment thing to do. It's disruptive and it's surgical and it's extremely important. So let's talk about it. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. I believe I'm close to being on vacation. I don't know. I am recording this in May, and I know you're getting it in June, so who knows? But right now, we're going to go with it. So I'm hoping that you're going into the 6 months, like you're 6 months before Christmas, which is crazy, but that's how I like to look forward to the latter half of the year. My favorite time of the year is fall. Favorite time of the year. So, now, you're looking forward to the summer, fall, holidays. So this is the uptick versus the very boring and somewhat depressive time in the first part of the year. So that being said, we're going to talk about protecting your peace because even though we're 6 months out from the holidays, you need to protect your peace at all costs at all times. But there is this spot that says, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm just not addressing it. I'm protecting my peace. Yeah. So we are going to go deeper with that here, a lot deeper, so you can understand what it actually means. You have to go to the Patreon, patreon.com/the positivity experience. There is going to be a great worksheet to help guide you through finding your way, number one, to protecting your peace, but understanding where you keep struggling with it, right? Because we all say, protect your peace, but you're not doing it. Remember, you can listen to the affirmations, you can listen to the podcast, you can get the tattoos, you can go to the tours, you can do all of those things, but it has to be implemented. There has to be an implementation. And all of that collectively is protecting your peace. However, exactly what I was saying, you're not going to escape people, but you are protecting it by committing to your boundaries, your alignment, and your emotional neutrality. The emotional neutrality is master for your emotional maturity. When you can be neutral, I didn't say numb, because people hear neutral and they think, oh, that just means, no, that's not being reactive. See, that's very different. So getting to your emotional neutrality means you're going to have to work on the stuff that you find that you're struggling with, the attachments, the ego, lack of boundaries, everything above. So let's talk about, really what protecting your peace means. Now, for me personally, it is non-negotiable for me. Now, do I do the self-care and the baths and the crystals and the grounding? Of course. And that is also protecting your peace, but there's a double layer to it. So we're going to talk about both of those because that spiritual side, not religious, that spiritual side or the connective side to the universe is going to be so beneficial and complement the other parts that are going to be difficult, which is why you have your grounding techniques, which is why you have those moments of, I can't do anything about it. Let me journal. Let me sit with it. Let me have my tea. Let me do my bubble baths. Let me go for my walks. Those are important and imperative for protecting your peace. But that's the easy stuff. That's the easy stuff. And a lot of people say, I love protecting my peace, but that's not really what you mean. What you mean is, I don't want to be uncomfortable, so I'm avoiding confrontation. Think about that. So in your mind, you're like, I'm protecting your peace, my peace. No, you're avoiding things. So it's going to look like you're protecting your peace. Just because you're in avoidance, that's not protecting your peace. And that's where you have to get very clear because what's going to happen is you're going to start negotiating that in your mind. Well, I'm protecting my peace because I am not going to go have that conversation. Now, everything doesn't have to be a Karen moment. Everything doesn't have to be an in-depth conversation. That's valid. That's true. So everything can't be just addressed at all times. However, some things are very important. Like when it comes to boundaries, and I'm a boundary master. I love boundaries. When you're not establishing a consequence that you're willing to follow through with, you're not protecting your peace because you're not implementing the consequence to the boundaries. If this, then this. Remember that formula. If this, that's the start of your boundary, then this. That's the result of that's the result of them not respecting or having the respect for your boundaries. Two very different things. So when you're in that place and you're willing to go through the discomfort and you're willing to not avoid, now we're going to start protecting our peace. But when you hear that, you're thinking it's supposed to be warm and fluffy and easy. Well, I mean, the one side of it is. And after you get this other side under your belt, yes, then it absolutely is. But you have to be willing to do it. Because real peace is not about silence. It's about sovereignty. Sovereignty. Good God. Sovereignty. That's what that's about. So just because you're silent doesn't mean that you're protecting your peace. It's quite the opposite, actually. So it's very, very important to understand. So why peace / avoidance where you're cutting people off? That isn't peace. You're just emotionally spiraling over it. Now, there is a difference between distancing and cutting people off. And I think this is a good place to have that conversation. So I get to the point where I do not judge people. My God, I was the most judgiest person on the planet because I was in victim mentality at all times in my early 20s. I do not judge people at all today. So before people go, everybody judges. No, I observe. Don't get it twisted. I do observe. I look and I say, is this situation or are these people or is this project, is that promoting where I want to be as a person? Does that support my vision for my life? If the answer to that question is yes, great, then I'm going to explore it. If the answer to that question is no, well, I'm not going to explore it. I don't need to judge it. Why would I judge it? That's unnecessary energy. So you don't have to try to figure out, why does this person do this? Why does this person do that? You're pulling yourself out of your own peace. They're not. So when you get to the place of that emotional neutrality, that's where you can observe it. I don't care how you want it to be, and I don't care how you want this person to be. If you look at it, that's that radical acceptance, right? If you look at it and you say, okay, here's my radical acceptance of this. I want it to be this way, but it isn't. So protect your peace. So to protect your peace, that means A, you have to have clarity on that. B, there may be time for distance. Now on this journey, sometimes you don't even have to make that decision. They'll make that decision for you. Because if they're at that place where they can no longer benefit from you or they don't like the changes that you've made, they'll distance by themselves. So that's one less thing you got to deal with. But when you cut people off and you're like, screw that, I'm not going to deal with that anymore. I'm going to protect my peace. That's not protecting your peace. Stop using that and telling yourself that you're protecting your peace. You can have difficult conversations. You can say without the emotional attachment to it. Hey, mom, whatever, mom, whomever, I'm on a different part of my journey right now. And you can't be part of that journey because I need to free up space for my own clarity. See, that is neutrality. That is having a difficult conversation. That is the start of protecting your peace right there. But are you willing to have that conversation? Until you are, and you got to know like what it is, who it is. Remember, there's that fine line of, are you expecting too much out of people? Meaning, are you expecting them to solve some abandonment issue or solve those things? Because then that's a whole different ball game that you have to address for yourself. Yeah, I mean, you have to. So if you can observe it without that emotional attachment to it, then you're going to be able to get distance, right? You're going to be able to get distance and clarity without that emotional component. And believe me, you're not a drone. You're going to have some level of emotional, dysregulation or emotional sadness or, a little bit of grief. That's okay. Like you're allowed that, but don't avoid it and then think, my God, I'm protecting my peace, right? So this goes into that avoidance tendency. And when you stop doing that, number one, you get power. And number two, now you start protecting your peace. So what's the difference between performative peace, like I don't talk to toxic people, and internal peace? You're not internally activated by them anymore because there's two different things. Now, neither one of them have to be wrong, but let's talk about those two things where two things can exist at the same time. However, the first one might be a little bit more emotionally charged. Remember, observation versus activation. Always remember that. Observation, look at it for what it is, not who it is, not how you want it. Observation versus activation because it's person or something that didn't happen that way. So the performative piece of I don't talk to toxic people is mandatory. I mean, maybe don't say I don't talk to toxic people because you'll probably have conversations with two people in your entire life because everybody has a level of toxicity to some point. So instead of something like, I don't talk to toxic people, you could tell yourself, I actively do not engage with people who are toxic to my growth. Repeat that in your head. Okay. Now that's performative. So you have to take action. Sometimes you're not going to be able to avoid people. Sometimes we work with people that we'd rather throat punch them than actually work with them. But that's life. That's life 101, which is why you cannot be into that reactive place. People are going to people. So if you keep getting annoyed that Becky in finance is constantly on you, that's where you establish boundaries. And remember, you're there for one purpose. Get your job done. I mean, don't be a, total ass, but you're just there to get your job done. So that's performative. How do you performatively protect your peace? Well, obviously, certain things you can't choose, other things you can. You don't have to go to a family function. You don't. You don't, as long as you're out of the house, you don't have to have engagement with family members. You aren't responsible for showing up because this is what everybody wants you to do. You're not. You're not. So that's selective, but that's also performative. Then you have the internal. Now that's what I work with my clients on. My God, if you have a hard time with internal struggles, I am your girl. Book an appointment with me ASAP, because this is going to be a pivotal part of your growth. And that is not getting activated by them anymore. You're new here. So you're not going to hear this podcast or even have 7 sessions with me or 7 months of sessions and all of a sudden not be reactive. You're going to be reactive because however old you are is how long you've been doing it. So it's not a fast change. You're not just going to flip a switch and suddenly you're great. You're not. So I think the awareness behind that is massively important for you. It's not fast. But when you observe, and this is that, I guess it's more of like a Buddhist principle of, staying connected, staying in that moment. It's appreciating and re-evaluating your need to understand, your need to have them perform the way you want them to perform, your need to have yourself be heard. Always great to be heard, but let's not force one person to do that, because remember, your things are important to you. They're not important to everybody else. That's not good, not bad. It just is. So you do not have to compromise your goals and your non-negotiables. Do not try to shove this specific person into that place, though. So for every person who isn't able to do that, you do have people who are. You just have to be in acceptance that that specific person may not be it, and it could be a parent. It really could be a parent. It could be a spouse. Maybe that's not a thing anymore. Like, it depends on what it is. But if you could start observing it, and this is actually a really good exercise for you in general to see where you're still struggling. Is it attachment? Is it your ego? Because a lot of times it's your ego. Is it your ego? Is it other things? And you're able to observe it without judgment. But what that looks like is you say, okay, why do I feel activated? What is it that is allowing me to feel activated? Well, my God, I don't understand why my mom, right there. I don't understand. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to understand it because there's not going to be a good enough reason. You don't have to understand why your mom does this. You don't have to understand why this person does this. But you do have to sit there and observe and say, does this benefit my best and highest good? So that your internal piece is when you find yourself activated. It's funny. I don't think I talked to you since then. No, I didn't. So during the week, I did a couple things with YouTube. I was invited to these 2 private events, very exclusive little events for creators. One was in DC, one was in Baltimore. So one night went to DC, fine, great, no problem. I know I know traffic. Baltimore, I know traffic in Baltimore can be a nightmare. Well, it normally takes me an hour and say 10, 15 minutes tops to get downtown Baltimore. Took me 2.5 hours, and I was going to be an hour late for the beginning of the creator hookup, like link up. I don't care. I sat there and I used it as a teachable moment. I did an Insta story. I was like, okay, if you guys are activated by traffic in which you can't control, ask yourself why. Because I was fine. I was listening to an Audible book. I was like, oh, well, I'm literally in stuck traffic. So to lose my shit over it does what? Now that makes my whole night miserable. Now I would have gone to the event. Now I'm going to be pissy. And all I'm going to do is bitch the whole time in my car. Why would I do that? I just utilize it and go, all right, well, I've been reading this awesome book. I always read like true crime. It's just my jam. True crime or horror. It's always very relaxing for me. And so I was like, oh, I'll just listen to this. I was finishing up a book. I had like an hour and a half left of it. Great. I just did that during traffic, but I wasn't reactive. I wasn't reactive because I know for a fact I can't do anything about it. It's not the Jetsons. I can't just all of a sudden take my car and fly high. If you're activated by it, you got to ask why. So this helps you protect your peace when you accept what is in my control, blah, blah, blah. What is not in my control, blah, blah, blah. Well, don't focus on what you can't control. So how you see it is how you'll live it. So that's part of that internal and performative. Both are required in order to start protecting your peace. It's also not built through distance. It's built through discipline, right? Protecting your peace is built through discipline. You have to be disciplined to show up for yourself. You have to be disciplined to keep promises to yourself. That's why when you make a promise to yourself, you want to be realistic. You don't make a promise and go, I'm going to clean the whole house today. And then you don't do it. And then you feel like you let yourself down. Well, why are we doing unrealistic expectations? So it's discipline. We're not waiting to feel like it. We're doing it anyway. So when you look at it and you realize I can't just distance, you will distance, but I can't just do that. I have to have discipline to do it, even if I don't want to do it, even if my feelings get in the space. This is where over a period of time, definitely what I work with my clients on is not allowing your emotions to dictate your actions. That is where people screw up right there. You go into your emotional field, how you feel, and then you take that feeling and suddenly it now becomes a fact, an emotional fact, and you respond out of that. So that is a learned action that's going to take some time and discipline to learn it. Because one's emotional immaturity, one's emotional maturity. And if you want to know the difference, I have definitely some podcasts on that as well. And remember, you protect your peace. And here's an example of a statement to say. I could engage, but I won't. That's power. But you're not doing it when you're shitty. You're not like, well, screw that. I'm not going to engage in that. No. It doesn't matter who it is. Your peace is equal in all areas with all people in all situations. I could engage, but I'm not gonna. It's okay. Your ego is what you got to check. You need to get the last word in. You need to be understood. Ego. So until you're ready to check your ego, still have it because your ego is part of your life. Until you're ready to check your ego, you are going to live in it. And then protecting your peace is going to be very difficult. And then you're just wearing shirts and hats and putting stickers on your car that says protect your peace. But you're not. Because these are the difficult. It's not really difficult. You tell yourself it's difficult, but the actions that you need to do in order to really stop, doing it. Now, why do you keep losing your peace? Because you can have all good intentions. You can listen to this podcast. You could read somebody's book, preferably mine in the not so distant future. You can do the things. You can show up to the things. But why do you keep losing it? So here's your common peace leaks. Right? So think of it as like a faucet or a hole in a boat. So the boat's going to sink. And even though you keep bailing out the water is still there. So here's your peace leak. Being in the same group chat with people that you've outgrown. If you're in a group chat and these are people that you've outgrown, this does not mean you're better. This does not mean that they're less or the other way around. If you've been in a group chat for a long time and you realize, man, I don't really want to be in this group chat anymore. Well, why are you staying? Are you worried about judgment? Are you worried about the confrontation? If somebody goes, this said that you left the group chat. Or you could just straight up say, hey, text in the group chat. Hey, I'm in a different space right now. I'm exiting the group chat. But, have a good day, or it is what it is, right? So that is one way, because you're staying in these chat groups or these chat chains that you've been in for a long time. So here you are, you're allowing yourself to get stuck there. You're picking up the phone because you don't want to seem rude. In your mind, you're picking up the phone and going, oh my God, I don't want to seem rude. Or bling, there's a text message. And you're like, oh my God, I got to hurry up and text. I have all my stuff on silent. So yes, it vibrates my watch. If it's not somebody in my immediate family or something that's important or a client for that day, I'll get to it when I get to it. Might be later today, might be tomorrow. I have none of my notifications on. I will not pick up the phone if I'm busy or if I'm not in a space just for the sake of not seeming rude. And again, once you establish that expectation for the people around you and the people who engage with you, then they're not going to think it's rude anyway. They might in the beginning, but once you understand and you respect someone's, functionality and their boundaries and vice versa, that's how relationships are consistent. That's how you have really good relationships, because each of you know. So if you were going into it and thinking, how come she hasn't responded to my texts in 2 hours? That's rude. Well, then I'm just going to be rude. Because see, the other side of that is you can't worry about being judged. So if you're protecting your peace, you will be judged. Not might, you will. If you're going to an event, oh my God, this is big. Like family dinners, holidays, what we're doing, we talk about right now. Going to an event out of obligation, even though your gut said no, my God, that's plenty of reason, is no. This is where you're over-explaining. You need to be understood. Let me break this down for you. The moment you do that is the moment that person gets to determine if your no is valid or not. Because now you're like, hey, you're like, oh God, I really don't. Now listen, some things you're going to have to sacrifice at work, but you don't have to go to these things at Christmas. You really don't. You do not. Okay? Like underline that. Put it on a screen somewhere. Let people do whatever it is that they're going to say or do. So important. So if you start giving all of this excess information, and now you've said, no, okay, I can't say no. All right, but you know what? No. And now the person's like, oh, well, why? First of all, the moment somebody asks you why for your no is where you have to remember they do not know this boundary. So you can't just snap at them. Just say, you know what? I don't go into detail on my no. I'm just not going to be available. Period. You're going to be rude. Like that's going to be called rude because the person doesn't like the answer. They want to see if it's them. They want to see if your no is valid. So let's, for all sakes and purposes, say you did, for some odd reason, give them a detail. I'm highly going to advise you against that. But let's say you did. You're like, I just worked all week and just want to get home. And, there's a new season of Handmaid's Tale that I want to watch. And they go, oh, well, I get that. Like, I know you're tired. Handmaid's Tale's on Netflix anyway. Why don't you just come for an hour? Do you see what happens there? Now they're trying to negotiate around your no. They're saying, don't worry about that. You can watch Netflix anytime. While valid, you might want to watch it today. You might decide, I'm picking cat hair off my socks today. That is plenty. Right? Versus you tell the same person, hey, my kid has lacrosse or soccer or whatever the case may be. And they go, oh, all right. Because now in their mind, that's valid. Where at the end of the day, you don't have to go and that's valid. Again, work function, sometimes you got to. But this is where you have to say, why are you so worried about it? That's what you want to work on. Why are you worried about pissing people off? Why? Because here's how this breaks down. There is zero scenario, not even a little bit, not even a percentage of a percentage, where you're going to go on your growth journey, establish boundaries, and not have any contentious moments. Not going to happen. You're going to be judged. I know the script. I've been doing this for 2 decades. There is a script for everything. A script for guilt trippers, a script for manipulators, which guilt trip is that too, a script for narcissists. There's always a script. So the moment passive aggression, like all of these, they all have just a basic script. So when you understand that you're rude, oh my God, you're extra, I can't believe you're doing that. Oh, you're going through something. These are just the standards. I would never do that. I guess I'm a burden. Now we venture into manipulation because these things kind of all overlap. But there is a core script. I wouldn't do that. Well, I would do that for you. Oh my God. This is not might going to happen. This is going to happen. Not from everybody in your life, but there will be people. And that's where you have to say to yourself, all right, we'll let that go. But they want engagement. And remember, to protect your peace means you are not walking into every conversation that you're invited to, and you're certainly not going to sit down and play a game. The moment you start to engage, the moment that you start to interact with it is the moment that you lost your peace. Period. So again, protecting your peace isn't just about saying it on a meme. You got to actively do these things. You got to actively walk into the discomfort. Because if you're not going to actively walk into it, you're just simply saying the words to say the words. And you don't even really believe them yourself. And it's avoidance. Always remember that. If you're revisiting arguments in your mind and imagining clapbacks, you're like, yep, I should have said this. No, that they did not say that. Man, I should have said this. All right, you didn't. And you're here now. Right? And now some of that's OCD. Some of that we understand that there's a mental component to it. And that's why, like I'm saying, you want to address the underlying issues, not just the leaves at the top of the tree. You have to do the roots. Here's an example of that. I have a crepe myrtle. My crepe myrtle, and crepe myrtles are known for this, CMBS. So it's the crepe myrtle bark scale. And it's these little fuzzy little bugs, and they leave this terrible soot. Basically, it's their excretions. And they can, your whole tree goes black. It limits the tree. So you have to do a soil trench if you want it to be effective. Right now, I still treat it, I'll once a week or so, I'll go out and I'll wash down the branches with my little bit of Dawn dish detergent and water and wipe it down. So I'm kind of keeping up on that weekly. But at the end of the day, I have to attack the stuff from the roots so the roots can pull that up and now make it sap poisonous to the bug. And guess what? That takes time. It might even take a reapplication in the soil, but typically soil drenches will last for a little bit. And then in the winter, there's a different soil drench to put. Why is that? Number one, it's not fast. So that bark scale isn't going to go away right away. Just isn't. It might literally take me a couple seasons to really get it to where I want it to be. So there's time. And while I can treat the bullshit up front, like up top where I can see the bugs, nothing is as effective until I treat the roots. That is life. Until you treat the roots, and there's more than one, there's many. Anything that you're doing up top will not matter. So to protect your peace is also to allow yourself to be triggered. It's also to allow yourself to be uncomfortable. It's also to allow yourself to understand that you are solely responsible for your own happiness. That is how we start to protect our peace. Not just bubble baths and grounding. Valid and needs to happen because that, yin and yang, nothing's ever one-sided. So when you're in yin and yang, you want to have something a little bit easier where you can do your meditations, you can do your guidance, your guided meditations, grounding, reading, like things that aren't always self-help. Self-help is very, very taxing. And it can be, it can be extremely exhaustive. So you want to be able to take a break from it. You need those moments, which is why I listen to murder or I listen to true crime. That's very relaxing to me. It just is. It isn't always just about, reading self-help. My God, stop reading self-help books before you go to bed. Stop. Stop getting every book on self-help because you're looking for that magic fast fix. Stop. Have the material, but let's pump our brakes. You have to integrate slowly. You're not just going to read some books or do some self-help exercises, even my worksheet, and then all of a sudden you're like, my God, I know how to do that now. You don't. Just because you have the information doesn't mean you know how to use it, and you got to be put in a position to use it. So that's the piece of it for you that you got to get clear on. Part of protecting your peace is being uncomfortable, and part of being uncomfortable is being patient. Because being patient can make people extremely uncomfortable because it's not fast and expeditious. So how much of your day is emotionally spent on things that you have never wanted to say yes to? Again, work is a little bit of an exception, right? Every time you over-explain yourself or you entertain drama, right? Because you're coming in to fix the world, or you let your boundaries slide because nobody can overstep it because you're not holding it. You're paying for that with your peace. So this is where your peace leaks are. And you're essentially opening the door and saying, hey, everybody come on in, even if you don't want to. Now, what does it actually feel like? And not the Instagram version, not the pretty version with the tattoos of protect your peace on the arms. No, it feels like neutrality and not consistent joy. Protecting your peace doesn't mean that you're overjoyed at all times. Not at all. It just means that you understand things are largely out of your control, hence that traffic situation, and you're just neutral in it. Not numb, neutral. That does come with a lot of growth. That does come with a lot of practice. But the beautiful thing is yes, things are going to frustrate you. Yes, sometimes they're going to be expensive in cost, not just in money, but in time and mental bandwidth. That's going to happen. But part of that feeling is understanding that you're not always going to be riding sky high. It feels like freedom from that internal tension. So you're gaining freedom from the connection, or what you think is a connection. It's not really a connection. It's more of an attachment to whatever the drama is, whatever the hope is going to be. So that's why you can't really protect your peace, because you're trying to control the narrative, and controlling the narrative isn't going to happen when you're protecting your peace. You just have to take action. Observation versus activation. Two very big different things. It also feels like peace also feels like not needing to be right, heard, or validated to feel stable. That's right. So I know many of you who want to say you're protecting your peace are not, because of that one sentence. That one sentence. It is not needing to be right, ego. Not needing to be heard, ego. And not validated in order to feel stable, ego. So when you work on the ego piece of it, and we understand, we understand that there's trauma. All right. It's like, I feel like I shouldn't have to say that at every podcast, but I also am like, well, let me tell you, because you're going to say, oh, do you know, I know where it comes from. I know, but you're here now. The hell are you going to do about the past? What are you going to do about it now? So we know. So when you find yourself still needing that validation, still needing to be right, still needing to be heard, which in turn means you want them to change, you're not going to have peace. But to have peace feels like, I ain't got to engage in it. It's going to be what's going to be. People are going to think largely what they want to anyway. It feels like you can sit with yourself and not hate what you hear. See, that's another one that I know a lot of you aren't protecting your peace with. And you're avoiding sitting with yourself at all. I did the one on feeling your feelings. Go back and listen to that. I'll give you a little bit of guidance. And if you're on Patreon, you know that the worksheet is there. Bring that back out and sit with it. But if you are not allowing yourself to be heard, all right, you did shitty things. It is what it is. Throwing yourself on the hill, on a sword on the hill, does nothing to change the past. Nothing. What are you going to do about it today? And that's what peace feels like. That is what protecting your peace feels like. And that's why it's work. And that's why in that work, you have the grounding. Because you can't do self-help all day long. Now, grounding isn't just self-help. Grounding helps your blood pressure. It helps all those things. And then, yes, I crochet, and that is fun because I get to make things. But there's so many other things I could be doing. But I can't worry about that. I need my mental bandwidth. What are you willing to do and to sacrifice in order to protect your peace? Because that's going to be another question. My cat's meowing if you hear him. When your nervous system is regulated, your vagus nerve, okay, you access social engagement mode. This is clarity, connection, and calm. But your nervous system has to be in there. But when you're in fight or flight or freeze, you're mistaking hypervigilance for readiness. And then your peace becomes unfamiliar all the way across the board. So if you find yourself constantly in that space of going, oh, I need this. Okay. No. Now, what you are really saying no to. Now, this is important. This is meant for you to really get some clarity and dig deep here. When you protect your peace, this is what you're saying no to. Your own ego that wants to be liked. Are you willing? Don't tell me what you want. Are you willing to let go of your ego and accept not everybody going to like you? They ain't going to like me. They ain't going to like you. You can't focus on them. You got to be solid and authentic within yourself. And guess what? Not everybody's going to like you. And be honest with yourself. You don't like everybody else. So you're all caught up in why people don't like you. But in the same token, you don't even like everybody because you don't vibe with them. Your guilt reflex that keeps you accessible to people who drain you. So when you're protecting your peace, you're like, oh, I'm going to let go of that guilt. Everybody doesn't deserve access to you. When you're giving access, you got to say, why am I so accessible to everybody? Your fantasy of changing people through explanation. My God, when you're protecting your peace, you are saying no to that. I don't need to explain myself into allowing someone to change based on my explanation. Ego, insecurity, control, manipulation in many ways. So this is why when you say you're protecting your peace, you're really not, unless you're getting to this place. Then yes, then you're protecting your peace. Your addiction to being needed, seen, or praised for self-sacrificing. These are the martyrs. Oh my God, you're sacrificing everything. If you're protecting your peace, you're not doing that anymore. You're not, because you don't really care how it's perceived. And that being nice makes you good. You're letting go of that nonsense. Being nice doesn't make you good. That's the important thing. And remember, every single time that you say yes to something, you have to say no to something else. I mean, that's just how it works. Every single time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. Make sure that what you're saying no to isn't yourself. Because protecting your peace means that you're no longer available to perform any kind of pain management or managing anybody's feelings. That's how you know you're really starting to protect your peace. And it's like the sibling who always calls you in crisis. Stop always being readily available. I'm not asking you not to be available every now and again, but if you see that the same friend or sibling goes on and on about the same topic over and over again about should they get out of the relationship or not, why are you still engaging in that? The friend who just trauma dumps on you with no boundaries, meaning they call you at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I don't mean in an urgent situation, right? They're calling you at 5 a.m. or they're making it seem like because they're having a moment, you need to drop everything and come to them. The boss, that's right, it can pertain at work. The boss that oversteps because you never push back. Stop blaming the boss. You keep saying yes to things. What you tolerate will continue. People will get away with what it is that you allow them to get away with. So what kind of a system, not a mantra, mantras are great, but what kind of system can you do? So this is the action heavy area. And again, we're going to go hardcore with it even more on the Patreon. But here's your practical system, because everything has to have a system. Pre-written exit scripts. Now, I don't want you to walk around and be like, oh my God, this person's coming. Here's my script. Just more or less in your head to know that you're capable of doing it. If you can execute it, it's amazing. So this way you're not as flustered when it's time to disengage. So here's an example of that. I'm not in a space for that kind of conversation right now. This is my favorite when it comes to just because you're married. No, you don't. You have zero right to just come in and just dump all over somebody because you're married. You have zero right, and they have zero right to be an asshole because they had a bad day. No, I'm not in a space to have that conversation right now, period. People aren't going to like it. That's why you just got to, don't engage, keep it moving. Time limit check-ins. Limit contact with energy drainers for any type of controlled windows. Obviously at work, you're going to have some. But do you find that somebody's constantly bitching, constantly complaining, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. All of a sudden, nothing is good. It's never good weather. It's never good conversation. It's never any of those things. Well, if that's a thing, you need to limit contact and perhaps distance, not cut off, distance. Because there is a time that you have to say, am I important to me? Is my peace more important than their feelings? And I can't answer that question for you. I can answer it for me. Oh, my peace is way more important than anybody's feelings. This doesn't mean that you're narcissist. This doesn't mean that you're going to be rude. This means that when you are engaging with people in situations, you're 100% there. You're giving people your undivided attention. You're there for them. They're there for you. But this is solid for you. You're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Now, deciding ahead of time. Sometimes you got to tell yourself this. This is an emotional boundary. I do not explain myself to people committed to misunderstanding me, which will be most people. It'll be most people. And if you find yourself doing it, say, what is my insecurity? Never judge yourself. Give yourself compassion, but do be aware, because you can't change it until you're aware of it. I mean, you just can't. So when you're in that place, you got to have a mindset reset. Oh, side note, with that whole misunderstanding me, that comes a lot from people who have no emotional maturity and they have zero desire to see anything outside of themselves. I know you know people like this, trust me. A lot of it can be family. So if you're going to have a mindset reset, which I love mindset, if I need to over-explain myself, I'm already in the wrong room. Know that. If you need to over-explain yourself, you're already in the wrong room. Do something to exit that. Period. If it costs me clarity, it's too expensive. Your energy is currency, and it's worth way more than any dollar sign. So your clarity is way too expensive. If it costs you the clarity, If it costs you the clarity, it is way too expensive. I lose people by protecting my peace. Okay, this is a big one. I don't lose anything real. If I lose people for protecting my peace, I don't lose anything real. I don't care how you wanted it to be, how you thought it is. You got to accept shit for what it is. The moment that you stop needing peace to look nice, now you're getting it. Now we're going into protecting your peace. And when you really commit to it, you stop being reactive. Again, this is going to take time. I'm not that magical that you're going to listen to this and just suddenly implement it. You stop fearing being misunderstood. You know your truth. Shit, that's good. You realize that you do not need closure. You need distance. Stop waiting for closure. Your waiting for closure is totally giving somebody else power over you at all times in all situations. So every time you think, I'm doing myself a favor. No, you're not. You're not. You're giving away your peace. You get your energy back, bandwidth. You get sleep. You even get some new ideas, new opportunities. You become way more magnetic. So because people can feel your groundedness, they can feel your authenticity, you're going to have way more relationships and connections that matter the most to you. And this is just very, very important. And peace isn't what you find when life calms down. Well, shit, anybody can find it then. It's what you protect in the middle of the storm. What are you willing to do to protect your peace at all costs? I just told you what it is. It's definitely not reactive. You don't have to burn bridges, but you do have to stop inviting these arsonist people into your mind. I mean, these are the people who are coming in. You're not burning a bridge. You're just saying, hey man, no access here. This is closed. You didn't burn a bridge. You're just not allowing access to it. And you know that you're protecting your peace when other people stop being so confused and start being uncomfortable. That's right. That's right. When you realize that people are uncomfortable with your peace because you're giving clarity. People say, I want clarity, then they get clarity, they don't like it. People say, oh, you don't know, you're a scientist, but you don't understand this. And then they show you proof of that and they go, well, I don't believe that, right? Like people are always going to move the goalpost. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something to complain about. There's always going to be something to bitch about. There's always going to be something negative. Always, that somebody who is not in a good space is going to project onto you. People who are in a good space will not judge you. They will observe and just go, oh, that's okay. It doesn't serve me. I mean, this is important because when you are at that place, again, traffic, could care less. I just listened to an audiobook. It literally didn't even piss me off. I was like, oh, okay. I accept it for what it is. When you get there, you're unstoppable because people can't pull you out of character. Oh, by the way, I did not get here overnight. Let's not make it seem like I woke up this way. No, I was a complete, total nightmare, complete, totally energy vampire, complete, totally let's fight. So it takes effort. But it's what mattered to me, and my peace matters to me at all costs. And no exceptions. There's zero exceptions to that rule. So you have to ask yourself, are you ready to protect your peace? Because you say you are, but you're not. You say I'm protecting you're not. Are you really ready to do the hard work? Are you important to you? Are you the most important person in your life right now? You can still care and love people. But are you sacrificing your peace? I didn't say you got to not make sacrifices in relationships. Don't let it be something that's going to disturb your peace, though. Because now that becomes a whole different problem. Because now you're sacrificing yourself, and now that can go into resentments. Because now you're like, I did this. Be careful of that. So if it costs you your peace and you're confused about it, you don't want to do it.
Check it out.